the last of the 4 summer art studios. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be doing some scratchboarding inspired by the artwork of American illustrator Beth Krommes, perhaps best known for her Caldecott award-winning illustrations in the book The House in the Night. The art we're going to do today is essentially a 2-part process. The first, we'll be using paper that has a black coating and scratching to remove that coating and expose a white underlay. The second part, and it's optional, is to add color to the parts we've revealed, to the white. So you can either have a finished product that will be simply black and white, or if you want some additional color, that will be the second phase of the process. So to work with the scratchboard, we just need a ruler and pencil and either scissors or an X-Acto knife if you want to cut it to a different size or shape. This piece is very big, so I will definitely be making it smaller. And then the things that you'll use to scratch away the black surface. Often when you buy them as a kit, they will come with both the scratchboards and 2 or 3 styluses with different surfaces for removing the black. But I'm just going to use things I found around the house. So things like wooden toothpicks or wooden skewers, and metal can be a good thing to work with too. A metal skewer, or the tip of a nail, or I just found this random metal piece. Even a kitchen knife can be useful. This one is just plain, but if you have one that's serrated, it means you can scrape along with those serrations and potentially be removing, whole rows of black at once. And that can be great. I'm going to be using a commercially produced piece of scratchboard today, of the sort that art supply stores carry or that you can find online. But as always, there's more than one way you can do a piece of art. And so I will also be showing you 2 other ways you can do this art form at home with things that you probably already have right now. The 2 other ways that we can achieve a similar effect are either with wax paper, black crayon, and white paper, and then scratching as one would the scratch board, or a technique you probably did in school, where you start by using colored crayons, making a black painted surface, and then scratching to reveal an already colored image. If you do want to do the second phase of adding color to your artwork, using either the scratchboard or the homemade scratchboard, it's going to require access to a photocopier, because in both cases, the surfaces we reveal are going to be repellent to paint. So we need to make a photocopy and then apply the paint to the photocopy. Before beginning a work of our own, let's take inspiration from that of Beth Krommes, remembering that she starts from the solid black, removes to reveal white, and then finally adds color. It's actually a little trickier than it might seem, because we so often work in the reverse, where we're starting with white and then adding a mark of black or of pencil or of color. And we'll see how that can make things a little trickier than you might guess at first. In The House in the Night, The nighttime setting, of course, is perfect for starting with black. Let's have a little look. So in this case, any white that you see is a place where she has removed the black. The black sky was there all along. And in a sense, what she's done is a bit like an Inuit carver, where we are removing the black to reveal the picture that some might say was always there. Looking closely at this image and different parts of it, you can see the different techniques she's employed. If you look at the chest of drawers, for instance, she's used parallel lines to give the impression of the wood grain. But around the window frame and in various other places, she's done something called cross-hatching, where the lines go in one direction and then she does another set of lines on top of those in the other direction. Look at the window. She gives the impression of the reflection on the glass, by the use of her cross-hatching and actually just single lines as well. And the black is a place where she did not have to remove anything. Keep in mind, anywhere where she's got pure white, like on the window frame and on the mother's dress, even part of the carpet, she has literally removed all of the black. The scratchboard that you can buy commercially is a clay-based surface that I think also has maybe a waxy coating. That means when you remove the black, you'll have a white, glossy surface. And it's because of this that you can't add paint directly to what you reveal, because it will just bead up on that white surface. Notable about Beth's work is her images of the natural world. Beautiful images of ferns and trees, of deer grazing in a meadow, butterflies. But there are lots of other little things too, and keep your eye out for them as I show you the images to find the thing that's going to appeal to you. There are also houses and boats, winter scenes. Maybe in this hot weather you'd like to just delve into building an image of an igloo or of snowflakes in a snowstorm. In this book, Swirl by Swirl, the author and illustrator Beth Krommes have taken a look at spirals in the natural world. So from everything, from snails to all sorts of other things like seashells. And these exquisite ferns. And in this beautiful and energetic water scene, the spirals at the ends of a wave. In the book Before Morning, we see a city busy dealing with a snowstorm. But of course, you could remove the snowstorm and just deal with the elements, putting them in a summer setting. Everything from airplanes and diggers to city buses. She also, in this book, shows us interior spaces, either up close and we are in the house with the family, or from the vantage point of being outside and looking in. Just like in The House in the Night, that window frame acts to frame the image that we're looking at. Beth's pictures are telling stories and often have a lot going on. But for our purposes, you might want to keep it more simple and focus on a single element. Maybe you're interested in doing something like an old pitchfork leaning against a wall, or some horses in a stall, or even a contemplative cat. Remember that we can always take just the portion we're interested in. Maybe you just want to focus on a single leaf. Here's a lovely scene of a summer's day. Remember that to get the effect of those clouds in a blue sky, we have to not only scrape away the shape of the cloud, but also the gaps in between. Otherwise, you will have white clouds, perhaps with the gray hatching, in a black sky. And that may be fine, that may be what you want. But if you want a blue sky, you are also going to have to scrape away the black between the clouds and then apply paint. This book has images of ships and of birds and of polar bears. Butterfly Eyes and Other Secrets of the Meadow features, of course, butterflies, but also everything from a complicated and up-close view of a meadow in the early morning to this calm and serene close-up of cattails. She often decorates the end papers of her books as well, which is something you can explore when you take her books out from the library. And finally, in Grandmother Winter, we get things like cardinals and chickadees and rabbits and turtles and fish. To see more images of Beth's work, just go to her website, www.bethkrommes.com. So now it's time to get going. I've protected the table with a piece of newsprint. This is a nice plain one that I found in a bundle of flyers. I always keep those if I do see them, then I don't get newsprint all over my hands. And a small piece of scratchboard. I've got an extra one as well, because that way I can do some little practice marking with different ones of my styluses to get a sense of how they work and how they remove the black, how I might want to use them. Another thing that can be really useful is a pencil. If you apply it lightly on the surface, it can be a guide for what you're going to proceed with, a sketch to work from. And I don't know if you can see it here. It does show up on the black. If you press too hard, it does remove some of the black, but that's probably not a problem. And as I say, it can be helpful. Well, I'm glad I chose to work in a small space. It takes much longer than I had remembered, and I keep having to remember which is the part I want to remain black and which is the part I hope to have color in. One thing I just found is that wherever I had put pencil line, for some reason it's much harder to remove the black with my stylus. So I would caution you against using too much penciling in your sketch in advance of starting your work. So this second approach is something I've made up, and I'm not really sure how well it's going to work. I was trying to think, how could you approximate the sketchboard material with stuff you might have at home? So what I'm going to do is start by coloring a small section of wax paper with a heavy layer of black crayon. And now I'm going to cut it out and with a border and tape it onto a piece of white cardstock. approximated the scratchboard, and it'll be something I can scratch away from and reveal the white below. It's not going to be something I probably want to keep as a final product, but it will be something I can photocopy and then add color to, either with crayon or watercolor, to that photocopy. As I do the scraping on this surface, the wax is coming up in little blobs on the end of my stylus, so I have to keep taking that black wax off. The final way to approximate the work of Beth Krommes is by using a technique you may have learned in school. You start by covering your page really heavily with wax crayon in random patterns throughout and covering the whole surface. Then you apply a coat of black paint over the whole thing. And when the paint has dried, you take a stylus and scrape away that paint to reveal the colors below. For a wonderful presentation on how to do this, please join my friend and colleague Erica at her program, Espace, création. The first one, called Gravures magiques, references the fun and magic of removing that black to expose these colors below. The details of how to find that video will follow at the end of this program. So I made photocopies of the art, and now I can add color to the photocopies. I think you can probably see there how the white in the scratchboard is quite shiny, and that's why the paint won't stick. Whereas on a regular sheet of paper, it will be no problem. The idea to do this actually came to me from Beth's website. I was looking for information about her art and how to contact her, and there was a note that said that she doesn't ever sell the original scratchboard art that she does, but that she does professional quality photocopying on art paper, acid-free art paper, and will hand color her prints and sell those. So that was what gave me the idea to do the photocopying. And of course you can make as many copies as you want, and then try different color combinations, or make several to use in different ways. So I used scissors to just trim these down a little bit more to size. I'll use the offcuts as a way to test the colors of my paint first. And of course you can use any kind of paint that you might have in the house. These are tempera, there's even an acrylic in there, but because it's water-based, I can add water to either. Or you might have watercolor paints at home, or powder paint, or ink. They're beautiful, beautiful inks that are also water-based, and they can be another whole medium to use when applying color. And you could use crayon, color it any way you wish. Since I'm using paint today to color the images, I've got water. I want the paint to be very, very thin to get that Beth Krommes style watercolor, where it's used very thinly and sparingly so that you can look right through the color to the page and the detail below. Now, one of the things we see right away is how much black is left. And that might be exactly how you want it to be. Or you might think, gosh, I'd really pictured there being some blue sky or something behind my bee or behind my thistles. And by having done these photocopies, we can remember that our original is still intact. So let me find my original. So I forgot that the originals are right here. By keeping this intact, you now actually have the option to go back and remove some more if you want to, and then photocopy the next stage. So now that I've taken more of the black away and photocopied again, I'm going to have that same chance to experiment with the adding of colors and see what they look like now. Thank you so much for joining me for this last of the Summer Art Studio series. If you're looking for more things to make and do, there are so many things on our website. Meredith's Maker and STEM Labs, Erica's Espace, création, Lori's Art Hive, Maddie and Elizabeth going outside and doing all sorts of fun things. There's no shortage. And of course, you can always go back and do something again. But please do send us some pictures of your art. We would love to see what you've done in this program. And we'd like to post some of the artwork on our social media spots, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So please send me photographs of art that you've made inspired by the Summer Art Studios to my email, which will appear at the end of this program. And thanks again. I've really enjoyed doing this.